It all started with a single photo, one that shattered everything I thought I knew about my wife, our marriage, and the life we had built together. I never imagined it would end like this. On the other side of betrayal, trying to pick up the pieces of my broken trust. My wife, Amanda, had always been the love of my life. We'd been together for almost a decade, and I thought we had it all. Two beautiful kids, a nice home in Albuquerque, and a relationship that, on the surface, seemed rock solid. But then came the trip to Cancun. She'd been talking about it for months, this girl's getaway with some college friends. I didn't think anything of it. A vacation sounded like the perfect escape for her. She worked hard, and I knew her friends had been trying to plan this for a while. I was all for it. Besides, I trusted her. Why wouldn't I? She was always affectionate, always made time for me and the kids, and we had no reason to fight. At least, that's what I thought. Before she left, though, there were signs. Little things, nothing that could have prepared me for what I was about to find out. She became distant. I remember the night before her flight. She was on her phone constantly, scrolling, texting, acting like she was busy with last-minute things. She kissed me like she always did, but there was something different, less warmth, more forced. When she said goodbye at the airport, there was a weirdness in her eyes, a coldness I hadn't noticed before. But I brushed it off, convincing myself I was just being paranoid. The first few days after she left, things seemed normal. We texted. She called a couple of times, sent me a picture of her and her friends on the beach. Everything seemed fine. But then the messages started slowing down. She'd reply late, if at all. The calls got shorter. And when I asked her how things were going, she'd say things like, "It's just so busy here, babe. I'm having so much fun. I'll call you tomorrow." But I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. It wasn't like her to act so distant. I wondered if maybe it was just the vacation. Maybe she was just in vacation mode. But the nagging feeling in my gut wouldn't go away. Then came the text from an unknown number. It was a random Tuesday afternoon just after lunch when my phone buzzed. At first, I thought it was spam or something from one of those annoying marketing services. But when I opened the message, it was a photo, a picture of Amanda. And not just Amanda alone, but Amanda wrapped up in the arms of a man I didn't recognize, their lips locked in a kiss. I froze. I stared at the picture, not sure if my brain was processing it correctly. She was on the beach, her body pressed up against this guy, a man I'd never seen before, her arms around his neck as they kissed. It didn't look like a friendly hug or an innocent moment between old friends. It looked like something much deeper. And Amanda's expression? It wasn't the "I'm having fun on vacation" look she'd sent in her earlier pictures. This was different. She looked happy. Too happy. A happiness I hadn't seen in a long time. I tried to convince myself it was a mistake. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe it was some sort of prank. But then the next photo came through. I stared at it for what felt like an eternity. In it, Amanda was standing with her back to the camera, her shirt halfway off, exposing her bare skin, while the man, this stranger, was standing behind her, his hands on her waist. The angle suggested someone was taking the picture intentionally. This wasn't some random shot. They knew it was happening. She knew it was happening, and she didn't care. By this point, panic set in. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think straight. My heart was racing, and I felt like the ground beneath me had just disappeared. I couldn't make sense of it. I wanted to deny it, to believe this was some kind of sick joke. But as the third photo came through, Amanda completely undressed, her hands tangled in the man's hair as they kissed again, this time much more intimately. I knew. I knew what was happening. I scrolled back through the messages, trying to understand what was going on. I knew the person who had sent these photos. Sarah, one of Amanda's college friends. I'd met her once or twice at social gatherings. She was quiet, friendly, but not someone I would have ever suspected of being involved in something like this. Yet here she was sending me these images, exposing Amanda in a way that made my stomach churn. I didn't know why Sarah was doing this. Part of me wondered if she was trying to warn me, trying to help me see the truth. Another part of me wondered if she was doing this for some other reason. But none of that mattered. What mattered was that my wife, my partner, the woman I thought I could trust more than anyone, was sleeping with another man while she was on this vacation. And she hadn't even told me. She was hiding it from me, lying to my face every time we spoke. I needed to know more. I needed answers. And that's when Sarah reached out again. This time, she wanted to meet up. She asked if I could meet her at a cafe in the afternoon. I agreed, barely able to control the shaking in my hands. I had no idea what Sarah was going to say, but I knew it wouldn't be good. I didn't know what to expect when I met Sarah. I just knew that something deep inside me had already snapped. I couldn't pretend like everything was fine anymore. My wife had betrayed me, and somehow, the one person who had the power to confirm it was Sarah, the same person who had sent me those photos. I don't know what I was hoping to get out of this meeting, but I knew I couldn't walk away without answers. I met her at a cafe downtown. It was a quiet place, tucked away from the usual crowds. I sat at a corner table, my leg bouncing nervously as I waited. A part of me still wondered if this was all some sort of misunderstanding, some cruel prank, but the other part of me knew it wasn't. Deep down, I could feel it. The weight of the betrayal was already too heavy to ignore. When Sarah walked in, she was dressed casually, her eyes scanning the room before landing on me. Her face was serious, no trace of the friendly, easygoing woman I'd met a few times. This was different. She sat down across from me without a word, looking me directly in the eyes, and I could see that she wasn't here to sugarcoat anything. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. Her voice was calm, but I could hear the tension in it. I really didn't want to be the one to tell you, but I couldn't just sit back and watch this happen. I didn't say anything. I didn't know what to say. I just stared at her, waiting for her to continue. "Amanda," she sighed, looking down at her hands before meeting my gaze again. "Amanda has been seeing him for months now. His name's Jason. He's someone she met while she was in Cancun. But it didn't just start there. This wasn't some one-night fling. They've been talking, meeting up, and well, it's more than you think." I could feel my blood run cold. "Months," I repeated, trying to keep my voice steady. "You're telling me she's been seeing him for months? Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Sarah shifted uncomfortably in her seat. I didn't know how. I thought maybe she'd stop. But when I saw her with him in Cancun, I couldn't just sit on this anymore. "You deserve to know the truth." My mind was spinning. Months? Amanda had been seeing this guy behind my back for months? All the time she told me she was busy, all the time she came home late, the little things I had brushed off as nothing. None of it was nothing. It was all a lie. And now Sarah was telling me the worst part. I didn't want to hear it, but I needed to. "What happened in Cancun? What else do you know?" Sarah leaned in, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. It wasn't just a kissing. They slept together more than once. She undressed in front of him, and it wasn't just for show. It was real. She didn't care about you. I don't think she's cared for a long time. My stomach dropped. Every word Sarah spoke at me like a punch. My mind flashed back to the photos, to the way Amanda had acted so distant and cold before she left. I had seen the signs, but I had ignored them. I wanted to believe that things were still okay. But now, Sarah's words were confirming everything. "I don't understand," I said, my voice shaking. "Why would she do this? I've been nothing but good to her." Sarah's eyes softened, but there was no sympathy in them. "I think she's always wanted more. Maybe she just got bored. Maybe she found someone else who made her feel alive, I don't know. But she doesn't deserve you. I am sorry." It felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. I sat there, staring at her, my mind racing. I had trusted Amanda with everything, my heart, my life, my kids. And she had thrown it all away for some guy she met on a trip. I could feel the anger rising in me, but at the same time, I felt numb, like everything was happening to someone else. This couldn't be real. This wasn't supposed to happen to me. "I need to talk to her," I finally managed to say. "I need to hear it from her." Sarah nodded, her expression sad. "I understand. Just know that you're not alone in this. You have people who care about you, and you deserve better than this." I stood up from the table, my mind still reeling. I didn't know what I was going to say to Amanda. I didn't know how I was going to face her after everything I had just learned. But I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't go back to the way things were. This marriage, this life, had been a lie. When I got home that evening, Amanda was already there. She looked up from her phone as I walked through the door, her face lighting up when she saw me. "Hey, babe, how was your day?" I could feel the anger bubbling up inside me, but I kept my voice steady. "I need to talk to you. Sit down." She frowned. clearly thrown off by the tone of my voice. What's wrong? I didn't waste any time. I know about Jason. I know what you've been doing. I saw the photos, Amanda. I saw everything. Her face went pale. She opened her mouth to say something, but no words came out. Then, she closed her eyes, as if bracing for impact. I didn't wait for her to explain herself. Why, Amanda? Why would you do this? We have 2 kids, a family. And you were out there, lying to me, cheating on me, pretending everything was fine. What the hell is wrong with you? The silence in the room was suffocating. Amanda just stood there frozen, like she couldn't believe I knew. She opened her mouth several times to say something, but each time, the words didn't come. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she spoke. Ryan, she began, her voice trembling. I can explain. I let out a bitter laugh. Explain? There's nothing to explain. I have the photos. I have the proof. You've been cheating on me for months, and you're standing here telling me you can explain? She seemed to shrink under my gaze, but then her expression shifted. The guilt I had seen in her eyes faded, replaced by something colder. A look that made me sick to my stomach. You don't understand. It wasn't like that. It wasn't about you. Oh, really? I stepped closer to her, trying to keep my voice calm, but the anger was starting to crack through. It wasn't about me? You didn't think about us when you were out there sleeping with some guy in Cancun? You didn't think about our kids when you were undressing in front of him? You're telling me it wasn't about me? Amanda's eyes started to water, but the tears weren't real. I could see right through it. This wasn't a woman who was sorry. This was a woman trying to manipulate me into feeling sorry for her. I was drunk, Ryan. I wasn't myself. I made a mistake, but you don't know what it was like for me. I've been so unhappy. You don't listen to me anymore. I needed to feel something. And Jason, he made me feel alive again. It was a mistake, but it didn't mean anything. I felt my stomach turn at her words. Unhappy, I repeated, shaking my head in disbelief. You've been unhappy for months, and instead of talking to me about it, you go off and have an affair? You think that's how a marriage works? I'm sorry, Amanda, but I'm done listening to your excuses. You don't get to destroy everything we built and then act like I'm the one who's at fault. She took a step forward, her voice rising. You never understood me. You never really saw me. All you cared about was work and the kids. I was drowning, Ryan, and you never even noticed. I needed this. I needed to feel wanted again. The bitterness in her voice cut deeper than I expected. It was like she had been holding on to this resentment for a long time, and now it was spilling out. But it didn't matter. None of it mattered anymore. You think I didn't see you? You think I didn't notice you, Amanda? I spent years trying to be the best husband I could be. I worked hard to provide for our family. I gave you everything I had, but you just took it all for granted. You let me love you while you were with him. And now you want to blame me? I was practically yelling now, and I didn't care. You're a liar. And what's worse, you're a coward. Her face twisted with rage, and she stomped her foot like a child. How dare you? You think you're perfect? You think I've just been sitting here waiting for you to be a perfect husband while I get nothing? You don't even see me anymore, Ryan. I need more than what you've been giving me. The sheer audacity of her words took me by surprise. Here she was making it sound like she was the victim, like I was the one who had done something wrong. I had been the one working hard every day to keep our lives together. I had been the one who loved her, who trusted her with everything. And now, she was trying to flip the script and make me the bad guy. Don't you dare talk to me about what you need, I snapped. You've had everything you've wanted. You've had my love, my trust, my commitment. But you didn't value it. You didn't appreciate any of it. And now you're trying to play the victim? You're a joke, Amanda. She started crying then, but it wasn't the kind of cry that made me feel sorry for her. It was a cry of frustration, of losing control. You don't get it? You don't understand. I've been so alone in this marriage. And now you're just going to leave me? You're going to take the kids away? You're going to ruin everything? I shook my head. No, you ruined everything. Not me. Not this family. You. You destroyed all of it with your lies and your selfishness. At that point, the anger in me turned into something darker, something colder. I felt a finality in the air, like I was standing at the edge of something I couldn't come back from. I realized, with a sickening clarity that I was done. I was done trying to fix something that she had already broken beyond repair. "I want a divorce," I said quietly. The words hung in the air like a heavy weight, and for a moment, Amanda looked at me like she didn't understand. Then, the realization hit her, and her face turned pale. "What?" she whispered, her voice trembling. You're serious?" "Dead serious," I replied. "I'm done, Amanda. I'm done with the lies. I'm done with the betrayal. I can't be married to someone who doesn't respect me, someone who would do something like this." Her face contorted in rage again. "You don't get to just walk away from me, Ryan. You don't get to do this to me. You think this is just going to be easy for you? I won't let you take the kids. You'll never take them from me. I won't let you." I took a deep breath, my hands clenched in a fist at my sides. "You've already lost them. You've lost me, and you've lost our family. I'm filing for divorce, and there's nothing you can say or do to change that." She exploded then, shouting and screaming at me, but I didn't care anymore. The more she yelled, the more I realized that I had made the right decision. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. I had to protect myself and my kids from the woman who had shattered everything. As I walked out the door, the sound of her hysterical screams followed me, but I didn't look back. The days that followed were a blur of anger, disbelief, and cold reality setting in. Amanda's hysterics didn't end with that confrontation. No, they escalated. Every time I tried to talk to her about the divorce, she'd go ballistic. The last week had been a series of tense arguments and ugly scenes. She screamed at me in front of the kids, tried to play the victim, even tried to manipulate the situation by telling them that I was the one who had ruined everything. It was like I was in some twisted nightmare where nothing made sense anymore. I filed the divorce papers the next morning after that confrontation. I didn't hesitate. I was done. But Amanda, she wouldn't let go. She couldn't handle the idea of losing control. Every time I tried to explain things to her, why I couldn't be with her anymore, she'd just throw another tantrum. Her words were venomous, each accusation more ridiculous than the last. "You're the one who's been distant," she'd yell. "You're the one who doesn't care about me." It was infuriating. The woman I'd once loved was now someone I barely recognized, someone who would twist the truth just to make me feel guilty. It was like she was trying to rewrite our entire history to make it seem like she had no responsibility for what had happened. A week after filing for divorce, Amanda called me. Her voice was calm this time, a sharp contrast to the wild-eyed fury she'd shown in the past. "Ryan, we need to talk. I don't want this to drag out," she said, trying to sound reasonable, but I could hear the desperation in her tone. "I know I messed up, but I still want us to be a family. Can't we fix this? Fix it?" I nearly choked on the words. "How do you fix something like this, Amanda? You've betrayed me. You've been sleeping with another man for months, and now you want to fix it like it's some little mistake? You've got to be kidding me. I know I hurt you. I know it's not right. But you have to understand, I was unhappy. I wasn't getting what I needed from you. And Jason made me feel important again. I didn't want it to get this far. I didn't plan for any of this to happen. Can't we try? For the kids?" she pleaded, as though the kids were her final bargaining chip. Her words made my blood boil. How many times had I given her everything? How many times had I sacrificed for this family, for her? And now she was trying to play the martyr, to make me feel like I was the one at fault? It was beyond insulting. "No," I said flatly. "You had your chance, Amanda. You blew it. You made your choice. Now it's my turn. I'm not fixing this. I'm walking away, and I'm taking the kids with me." I could practically hear her heart shatter on the other end of the line, but it was too late. The damage had been done. No amount of begging, no promises of change, would ever undo the betrayal she had put me through. The next few weeks were filled with legal battles, and Amanda fought dirty. She claimed I was a bad father, that I was using the kids as pawns in some revenge plot. She'd throw temper tantrums in front of our lawyer, try to manipulate every situation to her advantage. But no matter how much she tried to paint me as the villain, the truth was clear. I wasn't the one who had shattered this family. She had done that. One day, I had a meet with the lawyer about the custody arrangements. Amanda was pushing for joint custody, but I wasn't having it. The kids deserved stability, a chance to grow up without the chaos she had brought into their lives. I wanted primary custody, and I wasn't going to settle for anything less. The lawyer reassured me that my chances were strong. Amanda had no case. The photos, the texts, the witnesses, it was all stacking against her. I had a moment of clarity when I walked out of that meeting. I was doing the right thing for my kids. I was doing the right thing for myself. But damn, it hurt. It hurt like hell to think of my family, broken and splintered. But there was no other choice. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine when it was clear it never would be again. A few days later, Amanda showed up at the house unannounced. I was sitting in the living room with the kids, trying to make dinner, when I heard the doorbell ring. I looked through the window to see her standing there, looking like a wreck. Her eyes were red, her makeup smudged from crying. She hadn't seen the kids in a while, and she must have thought it was her chance to win them back. When I opened the door, she didn't say anything at first. She just stood there, staring at me with a mix of anger and desperation. "I need to see the kids, Ryan," she said quietly, almost pleading. "They're not here for you to just visit when it's convenient," I shot back, my voice cold. "They've been through enough, and they don't need any more of your drama." Amanda stepped forward, ignoring the coldness in my tone. "I've changed, Ryan. I'm not the same person. I know I messed up, but I'm trying to fix it. Please, just let me talk to them. Let me apologize." Her words fell flat. She didn't look like someone who had changed. She looked like a person desperately trying to claw her way back into a life she had destroyed. I didn't have time for that. "You're not welcome here, Amanda. You've done enough damage already. You don't get to waltz back in like nothing happened." She opened her mouth to argue, but I didn't want to hear it. I shut the door in her face, locking it behind me. It was a harsh move, but it was the only way to protect my kids and myself from the chaos she was trying to drag us back into. The worst part was, I knew she wasn't done yet. She was going to fight me tooth and nail for everything, custody, assets, anything she could take from me. But I wasn't backing down. The divorce wasn't just about ending a marriage. It was about reclaiming my life and giving my children the stability they deserved. And I wasn't going to let her take that from me. The final days of the divorce process felt like the calm before the storm. Amanda, after her public outbursts, finally calmed down enough to put up a serious fight in the courtroom. The lawyers had a nasty back and forth about custody, but I wasn't intimidated. Everything I had, every text message, every photo, every damn detail was on my side. I wasn't about to let her use me as a punching bag anymore. The hardest part, though, wasn't the legal battle. It was the constant manipulation, the way she still tried to spin the story in her favor. One day, I was in the middle of a conference call for work when I got a text from her. It was simple, just one sentence, but it hit me harder than I expected. "If you take the kids away from me, I will make your life a living hell." It was a threat, and it chilled me to the bone. Amanda wasn't just trying to win this fight. She was trying to destroy me. I'd spent the past few weeks preparing for this, but that one message reminded me of just how far she was willing to go. This wasn't just about a divorce anymore. It was about power. She wanted to feel in control again. And if she couldn't have control of the marriage, she'd try to take everything else. I didn't respond. I didn't have to, but I knew what had to be done. The final court date arrived, and by then, I had seen Amanda's true colors one last time. She came to the courthouse in a black dress, her hair done up, but I could see the cracks in her facade. She looked like someone who was running on fumes, desperate and exhausted. She cried in front of our lawyer, begged for forgiveness in front of the kids, even tried to buy their affection with empty promises. But none of it worked, not with me, and not with the kids. They were old enough to see through her act. They knew who had been there for them, and they knew who had abandoned them for her own selfish reasons. When the judge finally ruled, it was clear. I was awarded primary custody of the kids. Amanda was granted visitation, but it wasn't what she had hoped for. It wasn't even close. She had lost them, lost everything, and she was left with nothing but her own lies and manipulation. And yet somehow, she still tried to argue. She still tried to act like she hadn't been the one who ruined everything. It was maddening. She tried to guilt me, to make me feel like I was the one who had broken the family, like I was the one who had torn apart the kids' lives. But I stood firm. I knew what she had done. I knew what kind of woman she had become. The weeks after the divorce were a strange kind of quiet. Amanda kept sending me texts and emails, still trying to get under my skin. She'd apologize, then accuse me of things I hadn't done, then beg for another chance. But I ignored her. I didn't want to play her game anymore. I didn't want to get dragged back into her web of lies and manipulation. There was one moment, though, that I couldn't forget. It was a few months after the divorce had been finalized. I had just picked up the kids from her place, and they were quiet in the back seat of the car. I glanced in the rearview mirror, and for a split second, I saw the look on their faces. They weren't angry or sad. They were relieved. And that's when it hit me. I had made the right choice. I had done what needed to be done. For them. For me. As I drove home that day, the weight of everything that had happened began to settle. Amanda was gone from my life. The cheating, the lies, the constant fighting, it was over. I could finally breathe again. I didn't have to fix her. I didn't have to try to make the impossible work. I just had to focus on what was real, my kids, my future, and the life I had left to rebuild. And that was all I needed. In the end, I got something I never expected: peace. And it wasn't the peace I thought I would get when I first found out about the affair. It wasn't about revenge or making her pay. It was about taking back my life. It was about finally letting go. And as for Amanda, well, she kept trying to play the victim, of course. She kept telling people her side of the story. But I didn't care anymore. She could keep lying. I had my truth, and that was all that mattered. For the first time in a long time, I felt free.